Alice Campbell's hands trembled slightly now, a far cry from the steady grip they once possessed, but at 71 years old, she still rolled cookie dough with a practiced precision that had once made her something of a local legend in Oak Ridge, Iowa. The tiny kitchen of her modest home came alive with the warm aromas of vanilla and cinnamon every morning, the scent weaving its way into the fabric of the faded gingham curtains that framed her windows, curtains she had sewn with love decades ago. They were worn now, sure, but to Alice they were sacred, just like every corner of the two-bedroom house she still lived in alone. It was the very place where she and James, her late husband, had raised their only son, Michael. James had passed away 15 years earlier, taken by cancer, and since then the silence in the house had only grown louder. But Alice had filled it with meaning. The walls still bore snapshots of Michael's life, from his gap-toothed grins in elementary school portraits to the proud image of him standing tall in his marine dress blues. Like his father before him, Michael had taken the path of service. He had worn his uniform with pride, serving with distinction, until the unthinkable happened. In 2007, at just 23 years old, an IED in Afghanistan ended his life. Alice's world cracked that day, but she never let it shatter her. After 40 years of teaching second grade at Oak Ridge Elementary, Alice retired quietly. Her pension wasn't much, but it was enough. It covered her needs, and she used the rest to give. Donations to the local church, visits to the Sunny Pines retirement home every Wednesday. Yet it was her baking, her sweet, simple baking, that truly spoke to who she was. Her pies had taken the blue ribbon at the county fair 11 years in a row, and her Christmas cookies were nothing short of legendary. People waited for them like children waiting for Santa. Then came that chilly evening in 2015, one of those lonely nights when the wind taps against the windows and the heart aches in silence. Alice sat in her favorite armchair, a worn quilt wrapped around her knees, watching the news. The screen flickered with images of soldiers deployed in Syria, young men and women squinting into the desert sun, dust-covered and determined. One young soldier, no older than Michael had been, looked into the camera with a shy smile. "I miss my mom's chocolate chip cookies," he said with a soft chuckle. Oh, how those words pierced Alice's heart. Her teacup trembled in her hands, untouched and growing cold beside her. That soldier's face, a blend of bravery and homesickness, was hauntingly familiar. It mirrored Michael's face in that last video call home, the one where he'd tried so hard to smile, to be strong, even as he told her not to worry. Tears streamed down Alice's face that night, but the next morning she woke with a renewed sense of purpose. By noon, she had baked 24 chocolate chip cookies and a dozen snickerdoodles. She carefully lined a tin with wax paper, nestled the cookies inside, and penned a simple note. "For someone far from home, stay safe, Alice C." At the post office, she asked for the address of the nearest military base. The clerk raised an eyebrow, but gave her the information for Fort Dixon, about 40 miles away. Alice didn't hesitate. She paid for the shipping out of her pension and sent her little bundle of love into the unknown. She didn't expect a thank you, and none came. But the next Friday, she baked again. Another tin, another note, then another, and another. Soon one tin became 2, then 3. She never wrote about Michael, not directly, but each box bore the words, "For those serving silently," from a mother who once waited for her son. Not everyone understood. Martha Linden, her neighbor for 20 years, leaned over the garden fence one afternoon and shook her head as Alice loaded cookies into her old, rusted Buick. "You really think they eat all those cookies you send?" she asked, arms crossed. "You're just wasting flour and sugar, Alice." At the post office, Debbie Henderson, who had once been a wide-eyed second grader in Alice's class, now worked the shipping desk. She processed the packages with a look that teetered between pity and confusion. "Nobody's thanked you yet, have they, Mrs. Campbell?" she asked gently. "People these days don't appreciate things like they used to." Alice simply smiled. "That's not why I do it, Debbie." Week after week, month after month, year after year, Alice's Friday ritual became unshakable, as dependable as the town's church bells. Nothing stopped her. Not the brutal blizzard of 2017, when she had to dig her car out of 3 feet of snow. Not the pneumonia that knocked her down in 2019, when she baked while sitting on a stool, too weak to stand. Not even the global shutdown in 2020, when the world closed its doors and the post office reduced its hours. 8 years, 416 Fridays, 416 packages sent with love, and not a single one returned. Still, Alice pressed on. "The kind ones often pay the highest price," she murmured one Friday as she tied another ribbon around a tin, her cat, Sergeant, watching from the counter. "But sometimes it's the only road they know how to travel." And then everything changed. In her 8th year of baking, on a Thursday night, her arthritis flared so badly that she could barely hold a pen. Her fingers swollen and aching, she tried to write her usual note. The pen slipped, leaving a smudge across the card. Too exhausted to rewrite it, she added a brief postscript. "My son loved these before he fell in Afghanistan." That tin, humble, slightly dented, filled with crumpled cookies and love, made its way farther than most. After a series of mail transfers, it landed at Forward Operating Base Horizon in northern Iraq, where Captain Neil Matthews was enduring one of the worst days of his military career. A mission had gone sideways, not a disaster, but enough to leave him questioning everything: his choices, his leadership, his worth. He almost ignored the cookie tin in the pile of mail, but something, maybe the handwriting, which reminded him of his grandmother's, made him pause. He opened it. The cookies were slightly crushed, but still delicious. Then he saw the note, the smudge, the postscript. "My son loved these before he fell in Afghanistan." Captain Matthews froze. 8 years earlier, as a newly minted lieutenant, he had served in Afghanistan with the 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, the very unit referenced on the return label. His hands trembling, he fumbled through his phone and pulled up an old unit photo. There, in the back row, 3rd from the left, Lance Corporal Michael Campbell. The memories came like a flood. The patrol, the explosion, the desperate scramble to medevac. Michael had spotted the IED just in time. He shouted a warning that saved 2 fellow Marines. His last words, spoken through a haze of pain, had been about his mom's cookies. He had promised to bring some home for everyone. Captain Matthews sat in silence that night, the tin beside him, wondering how many of those cookies he had eaten over the years without knowing. Wondering if Alice Campbell knew her son had died a hero. Wondering if anyone had told her how Michael's sacrifice had saved others from the same phone calls she had received. Back in Oak Ridge, Alice's quiet act of love was starting to draw the wrong kind of attention. A local blog post titled, "Iowa Woman Self-Appoints as Soldier's Mom," accused her of chasing publicity. The writer, who had never once spoken to Alice, called her efforts emotional performance disguised as patriotism. The post spread, and soon things changed. At Hammer's Hardware, where Alice had bought her baking supplies for decades, the owner's son told her they were out of vanilla extract. "Maybe try ordering online," he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. "We don't want to get involved in anything political." "Political?" Alice asked, genuinely baffled. "It's just vanilla, Peter." Even her church, the one where she had taught Sunday school for 30 years, grew quiet. People kept their distance. No one mentioned her cookies. During prayer requests, there was silence. It was subtle, but unmistakable. Her grandniece, Jenny, visiting from college, noticed it right away. "Aren't people supporting your cookie project anymore, Aunt Alice?" she asked over Sunday dinner. Alice, carefully slicing her roast beef, replied with a gentle voice, "People have their own concerns these days." "But doesn't it make you angry after all these years?" Her smile was tinged with sorrow. "I'm not angry, dear. As long as someone remembers Michael, that's enough for me." And then it happened. The following Tuesday evening, an unmarked envelope arrived in Alice's mailbox. Inside, a brief, handwritten letter. "Mrs. Campbell, I served alongside your son in Afghanistan. Your cookies saved my life last week when I was contemplating the darkest choice a soldier can make. Knowing someone still cares enough to bake for strangers gave me the courage to seek help." Alice read it once, then again. Her hands trembled, not from arthritis this time, but from something deeper, something sacred. A tear slipped down her cheek. She clutched the letter to her chest, whispering into the quiet of her kitchen, "Oh, Michael,